We should bring back Thaco.
We should bring back Thaco. I'll talk about that in just a second. That's very funny that you bring that up. Hello, everybody, and welcome to DM Writer's Room. This is a show where the three of us demystify the DMing process by coming up with monsters, magic items, dungeons, and all kinds of things live. If you're tuning in now, you might have caught the series that we just finished up. My monitor's not on. That's going to bother me. You may have caught the series that we just finished up where we came up with a Forged in the Dark game, but we are returning to the shores of Dungeons and Dragons to run a game, to create an adventure, basically a brief dungeon for D&D 5e. All of the three of us should have brought a prompt of some kind that we will then pick between the three of them, or we usually end up random rolling because we like at least two of them. Who knows? Maybe there will be a blowout this time. I had something else I was going to say. Oh, Thaco. We did something Thaco related on accident on stream recently to like set a stealth roll, and I need to re-listen. I think it was episode 4 or 3. I need to re-listen because it was a really good way to solve the problem where it was like one of us rolled and subtracted our proficiency and skill instead of adding it to set a DC or something. And I gotta go take a look at that again because that worked pretty well.
I don't remember it.
I don't remember either. I just remember that it worked pretty well. Well, I suppose we'll have to make do there. So, I just realized we haven't done something in a little while here. My name is Ethan. And to one of the other people who's about to introduce themselves is
Michael. Hello.
And finally, Spencer. What up?
What up? There we go. I just realized we don't say our names on this stream a lot.
We assume now that we're one of the premier D&D channels, people just know.
I think we might be one of the premier live improvised prep and story creation streams on
That's
YouTube
true.
or Twitch. I think we might be the only one.
There's one more that I know of that has more follows than us. And they're great, and I do recommend them, but I'm not gonna plug them here.
It means
I'll
we're
plug
up
them at
top.
the end,
It
maybe.
means we're in that top like 3, 4, 5. So I'll
Yeah.
take it. I'll take it as a win. All
That's
right.
still premiere.
Yeah.
That's still premiere. All right, so we're going to go around the horn here, and each of us are going to introduce our prompt for what we think we want this here adventure to be. I can kick things off, and then I'll probably pass it to Spencer, and then Michael, and then that'll complete our little triangle here. My prompt is titled The Age of Cinders. Of our monster magic item or dungeon, I have gone with fire giants, because I've never gotten to play against fire giants, and specifically fire giants who have some kind of artifact or thing that can make a volcano. They have like a doomsday device, just because I think that's very cool. So my prompt is fire giants that are trying to make a volcano somewhere in the world, like under Neverwinter or some shit.
James Bond plot.
Yeah,
For sure.
exactly.
Mine is titled Dun John. And that's a play on the title Don John from the Deck of Many Things. Don John and the Deck of Many Things, for those who don't know, Deck of Many Things is a stack of playing cards that your players can draw from, your characters draw from. And you can either get great, massive benefits like using the wish spell 3 times, or terrible things like Don John. You, the person pulling the card, disappear and become entombed in a state of suspended animation in an extra-dimensional sphere. Everything you're wearing and carrying stays behind, blah blah blah. You remain imprisoned until you are found and removed from the sphere. You can't be located by divination magic, but a wish spell can reveal the location of your prison. You draw no more cards. My idea is, one player of the party happens to pull Don John. All of a sudden, there's a quest that they need to go on. That's where we come in. We develop the quest that the party has to go on to free their character from the Don John card. That extra dimensional space. Thus, Dun John.
So we're making like a themed dungeon after the Deck of Many Things Don John card. Okay, I like it. Michael, you're up.
Mine is called Melodic Mayhem. It is a dungeon themed around music, of course. And it is kind of like however you think of like music come to life, where it's I've I'll be candid. I only just came up with the idea
There we go.
about 30 seconds ago.
I mean,
Uh,
music
but-
is alive and hates you is a pretty good prompt.
What's the Mickey orchestra thing
Yeah.
where he gets is it smell the Mickey smell-o-vision? I don't know, but he brings a bunch of stuff to life and they play music.
Mickey's PhilharMagic or whatever?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
There you go. Or what's the other one? There's another sort of conductor. I'm thinking like there's we're not gonna get bogged down in this. All right, so that's our 3 ideas.
So,
Idea number 1. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think it'd be cool that the dungeon implements some of the music, like increasing tempo and vibrato, what's the word?
I don't know.
Vibrato. And someone on the internet's gonna make fun of me for how I was saying that.
A buff
but yeah.
base it. You see the music of the dungeon as being able to haste and slow and do all kinds of terrible things.
do
as you
all
make your way
that
through.
stuff.
All right, cool. All right, so that is our 3 prompts outlisted here. I'm gonna go through them all one more time, and then we're gonna see how we feel. The first prompt: fire giants are trying to make a volcano. The second: somebody has pulled the donjon card, and we are going to design the dungeon that holds the gem that their ally is trapped in. Or melodic mayhem: there is a dungeon powered by arcane or otherworldly music that affects those that are within. Is anybody leaning in any particular directions?
I like all of them again, and that's unfortunate. The word you're looking for is vibrato.
Thank you.
Vibrato, interesting. All right. You like all of them? Michael, how are you feeling?
I also like all of them.
Well, I like mine
Real
best,
fun.
so tiebreaker. No, all right. Here, I can roll a d6 if we like. I'll take 5 and 6. Who wants to be 1 and 2, and who wants to be 3 and 4?
1 and 2.
34.
All right, Spencer's 1, 2, Michael's 3, 4. I'm 5, 6. Let's see whose prompt we are working with. We haven't done one of these in a minute.
This is gonna be a 2.
It's a 3.
No! Wait, so Michael?
So
the
Spencer's least
PhilharMagic?
favorite.
No, it just wasn't me.
I know.
All right, number 3. So we are going with melodic mayhem. So we are going to be designing a dungeon with at least a couple of monsters and a magic item inside that somehow relates to music and specifically this ability for whatever the creature in this place is to change the tempo, which sounds like buff debuff kind of mechanics. All right. So whenever we're dealing with this, it tends to be best for us to pick one of these places to start. When I am designing a dungeon, I always start with, why is there a dungeon here? Like, what is this dungeon doing here? Is it a dungeon or is it just a hole in the ground? Like, where are we actually? In a close second to that is, what is the monster, right? We could definitely start there. Who is this fell composer from the outer world that is doing some nefarious deeds beneath ground or in a high tower? And then finally, if you had a particularly good idea for the magic item, we could start there. We could start with whatever the magical treasure is at the end of this roadmap, be it a weapon wielded by a boss, an item secured in a vault, a crystal stored in a wall, or some other such. John?
The boss is Beethoven. He
No.
beats.
All right, nope. Instant veto. I'm down to be goofy. Nah, I can't be all goofs. All right.
So number 1, I'm picturing, instead of there being like a main big bad guy who's pulling all the strings at the end of this dungeon, I'm seeing
Strings.
like a manor house that is formerly owned by a bard of magical talent similar to like Mordenkainen for wizards. He has developed this manor and a series of defenses specifically to keep all of his secrets and scrolls and incredibly valuable instruments safe. But he has died. And upon his death, one of the safeguards is everything in there comes to life and defends itself so he can come back, bring himself back to life, etc. He just doesn't bring himself back to life. Whatever he had planned doesn't work. So you have to go in, clear this out, and claim the loot for yourself. Because that guy is done for. It's been a long time, but nobody's been able to break in.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you die of the easiest solution for this in Dungeons and Dragons, if you die of old age, you're done. That's
You
it.
could,
That's your
brother.
ticket punched. There is no way back from dying of old age. Even if you are reincarnated, you'll be reincarnated at the age of ancient death and will maybe live another few hours. That is about the best you can hope for. Although, I guess an argument could be made that if somebody was... No, because if you were 100 years old and you respawned as an elf, you would respawn as a 1,000-year-old elf, right? You'd be kind of proportional and would have maybe a couple extra hours or minutes left rather than the few seconds that you would otherwise. All right, so we're going to start there. A famous bard had this massive manor house where he kept his many different treasures and instruments, and somewhere along the way he has passed away of old age. This bard has died before and returned always to the home that began to defend itself in the wake of his recent vacating of the mortal coil, but this time he is gone for good, which strikes us with a problem. There is no way to get inside. He did not anticipate this event. Maybe it crept up on him or some other nefarious daring do. Maybe he was aged to oblivion by some vile caster and so really didn't see this coming, right? He was 65 and then he was 95 and died very suddenly. I like all that. I think that's really solid. So this place then is a defended above ground kind of deal. So it is a pretty traditional dungeon, but rather than being beneath ground, it is mostly above. So immediately I have a couple of very basic questions. Number one, do we think that we want to design outside of the building? Or does the dungeon begin when the front... Like, can you get onto the grounds of the manor house unaccosted and sort of examine from outside? Or do you not... Or can you not even get close? Because that just changes what our starting point is. And then number two, is our goal for this dungeon to be finished in one session of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition?
I think abiding by our typical 1 hour monster item dungeon, it's got to be done in one.
Sure.
I think that if we expand it too far, it's going to get a little bit out of hand. As you enter the grounds, there's probably a gate, a fenced-in courtyard, and that will be your first issue, is getting past it. I do think it's as easy to solve as like vaulting over it, though.
So we need to answer a question before we start talking about if you can just vault over a fence. What level is the party? Because if this is an elite dead ancient bard's house, then it at least needs to be pretty sturdy. I don't think a level 4 party is going in here to get the loot of 1,000 songs, right? I get the feeling that I'm thinking somewhere between tier, like late tier 2, probably tier 3. So I'm thinking level 10 to 14, like some pretty heavy hitters.
I would do 10. I think 10 makes the risks high and the payoff high when you find like the instrument for the bard. When you're like level 14, it's like, nah. What's the extra +1 going to do for you, really?
Yeah, sure. All right. So level 10, I think, sounds really good. That means we're right. If memory serves, I think tier 1 is 1 to 4. Tier 2 is 5 to 9. Tier 3 is 10 to 14. Tier 3 is 5 up to 15 up to 20. So that puts us at the very beginning of tier 3, very late tier 2. I think that makes really good sense. That also means that we probably don't need to just hop a fence. Because if we hop a fence, it's in 13 milliseconds, and it's the monk or somebody casting fly and then just lifting off the ground over it with really no issue. So I need something with a little bit more to it than that. Going off of the same spirit, I think there is just something... I think that the bard would put a non-lethal trap outside of the manor. And so I think this first trap is probably pretty non-lethal. I think it is something that is meant to ensnare people who can then be dragged to safety when they are discovered to have been such dipshit that they tried to break into this house.
I have an idea.
Okay.
It could be the first thing I think of is like it's a riddle. It ends with the answer being like a note or something like that, like a bardic note or like a music note.
So the way in is through the gate, through a riddle. If you try and go over the top, there's a capture or like a thunder wave style. That
Sure. And I think every time you fail it probably casts like silence on you, so you can't try again.
Interesting. We can go with that. If it's a riddle, that means I just write down riddle and we stop talking about the first encounter, because I'm not coming up with a riddle live on stream. So I think
front gates always a riddle. It's always a riddle.
Interesting. Okay, I think that makes sense.
Yeah. That's
This
fine.
is a
We
weird
can
thing where
figure
they are
one
so
out.
popular and so beloved. I gotta be real. I hate a riddle. I despise a
Yeah.
riddle as a game master and as a player. But a riddle it is. A riddle it is. I am only gonna give a soft, kind of odd. I think. The consequence for that, though, maybe it is mild. If it is just to keep people away, then I suppose that is fine. It should be a riddle that is associated with the character in some way. Maybe it is something only a bard could feasibly be able to answer, right? So I think it has got to be performance-based.
You have to do perfect pitch.
It doesn't make any sense for this to be like a riddle that requires a history check or something like that. Like that just doesn't make sense. It needs to be something performance based. Maybe it's a reference. Specifically, I'm thinking of in the Name of the Wind. Minor spoilers for an old book from a series that will probably never be finished. In the Name of the Wind, there is a pretty well-known scene towards the beginning where the main character Kvothe goes to this bar to play a song. For those of you just tuning in, we are making a dungeon live right now in this moment where you are going into the manor house of an old bard adventurer who has died of old age and has left his belongings to whoever can get through his trapped ass house. We are currently thinking about a riddle on the front sort of gateway. In the name of the wind, Kvothe eventually gets into this thing where he is at this bar that is famous for hosting musicians, and he, as a sort of trick to make fun of somebody that he thinks is an asshole, plays an infamously difficult song like it is extremely easy to play, and plays an extremely easy song like it is very, very difficult to play. He plays like a sweat dripping down the front of his face focused version of Hot Cross Buns, and then plays a very lackadaisical version of like Russian E minor to make two little musical quips there. So I think some kind of performance check connected to like an in-joke about the world or about this bard. Nothing we need to come up with right now in this moment.
I will make one counter, and it would be like the word is just harmony, and the place could be like, Harmony Manor or whatever. So it says harmony over the top, and there's a series of notes, and you have to make a harmony with it.
Sure.
So it's like 3 notes off. So you can solve it if you know about music in real life, or you roll a performance check and you make the harmony.
Yeah.
And you can go through.
That's kind of
And
always
then
how riddles work, right? Eventually you
Yeah.
get to make an intelligence check if you can't figure it out. I'm just trying to dodge coming up with a fucking riddle.
Yeah, it's
As part of this dungeon in real life, you do have to have 6 buttons.
No.
in front
Going
of
on to the next one.
Everyone.
you have to sing.
No! So number 1 is this riddle, which I think makes perfect sense, right? It's a non-lethal, easy trap. If somebody tries to climb up over the sides, it's a wall of force, it's a thunder wave, something rejects them backwards. And if somebody's really tenacious, I think they can just get through. I think that if you just fly up in the air high enough, you get over the edge of whatever wall it is,
Yeah.
and you manage to land on the other side. I think that's good. I like rewarding a player that's like, can I just dig under the fence? It's very
Just
funny to be
brute
like,
force
yeah,
it.
no, it works. Like, there's not some magical force cage underneath this place. That would be stupid. He made reasonable defenses for his home. So you get through the outside, and now you're in the sort of front courtyard. You take a few steps up to the front door, you rap on it, and it opens up. Immediately, obviously, right, your ears are filled with the sound of music that fills the halls. Now, if this is a dungeon, we have some optional rooms, we have some non-optional rooms, that's fine. Normally, I recommend, if you're going to try to make a dungeon to be done in a, 3-4 hour session, yes, James, the fence can look like piano keys. Oh, the fence looks like piano keys, and they, maybe, there's something there with the riddle. I don't know. I don't know enough about pianos. James, I'll leave that to your imagination. So normally you want at least 5 encounters for a good 4 hours of D&D. You want maybe 3 of them to be combat encounters, a few of the others to be otherwise, and then I tend to put in at least 2 optional encounters with a goodie if you finish them. It's usually health potions, secrets, a trick to get through some other part, maybe a workaround for one of the later traps that's a little bit nefarious. So you open the door, and then you are faced with the interior of a beautiful manor house. You hear loud music coming in from in front of you. It's the ballroom, right?
Oh yeah, ballroom it's probably the first major room you encounter.
Now, you go in there, and what are you faced with? So my first instinct if this is a bard, I'm thinking of the kind of magic that they cast. The most obvious pull, right, would be animated instruments. You have to fight a big, angry piano. We did something very like this with the Lich's Dollhouse, right? You have to fight a big animated piano and then a bunch of other assistives. Another thought I have is they are sort of spectral musicians that you are fighting instead. It upgrades things a little bit, right? It's not just floating instruments, these sort of spirits. Maybe even copies of the bard, right? Maybe they seem similar in some way. I don't know. Any thoughts in that kind of avenue? How can we make a real fight happen in this
Here's
room?
my pitch. There are musical instruments that are flying about, so they're going to be out of melee range. In addition to that, there are essentially unseen servants, shadows, some flavor of that are dancing around the space, and you have to keep time with them, something like that, to be able to combat them. If you're not dancing in the room, you will be attacked by the unseen servant, shadows. I'm trying to think of the right word. Stalkers that are dancing to the music.
Shadows, invisible stalkers. There's 50
Yeah.
things you could be talking about, and they would all make perfect sense. Okay, so it sounds to me then, if I'm going to take that and I'm going to jam it into game mechanics, it sounds to me like a very big, probably hard encounter. In the technical term, I'm saying like the CR math should add up to hard, where there is a layer action at initiative count 20, where everybody needs to make a performance check or a dexterity saving throw. It's a performance check to keep with the dance going on in the room, in which case everybody moves 30 feet like clockwise around the space at initiative count 20 as you are forced to continue. If you want to stay in your spot, you need to make a dexterity saving throw to try to just scramble between groups as they move to try to make it. All right. I love giving that kind of like 2 option version. I think that tends to give people good intel. Performance or dex save. Inish 20. And then as far as the fight is concerned, so we I think our instruments need to be playing the part of controllers and support, right? Our flying instruments need to be buffing and debuffing people. They need to be doing some healing to these spectral figures. And then I think among these spectral figures are the actual combatants, are some like skirmisher brute types that are really going to waylay into things. And I think that makes a lot of sense. That gives us a pretty even display in our combat here, and it gives everybody something to do in the scene and adds just a little bit of the dynamic kind of action that we like. I think it would be interesting, a mechanic that is stupid but fun. I do kind of like the idea that whatever song is being played affects everybody. Like, it's fun to be like, oh, the enemies all have haste. I think it's much more fun to be like, no, everybody has haste. Like, there's just fun. Something entertaining about being like, everybody has haste for 1 round. Maybe if everyone succeeds on either that dex save or that performance check, the entire room gets haste. And so it just turns everything into a madhouse for a round.
And I think the way to solve quickest, which would be hard to discern, is probably attack the instruments as you're dancing through, so that way all of that falls, and then you can deal with the creatures that are left besides the unseen servants.
Yeah, the sort of tactical play move, right, would be to take them out. Yeah. And that's good. We're assuming 4 to 6 players. It's really easy to imagine, to my mind, probably 3 to 4 combatants on the ground, 2 to 3 combatants in the air. That puts you at about 6 to 7 total, which shouldn't overwhelm the party too much. And throwing around support magic is going to be really frustrating, and it's going to make people chase violins around the room with a hatchet. And I think that's just going to be pretty good. Now, we are going to need to try to find some way to sort of dispel magic proof those instruments. Those instruments can never clump up. Otherwise, one burn is just going to shut them all off all at once. A little bit of a problem. Now James has really tapped into what I would describe the Spencer Mayo school of DMing, which is haste, but everybody has to sing "I'm a little teapot or itsy bitsy spider" to keep things going.
IRL issues. Hilarious.
I need you to know quite famously in a Curse of Strahd campaign some moons ago, Spencer made all of us do a little dance to open a locked door over our video call. I have never forgiven you. All right, so we've got a couple of encounters. I like the idea that our people are just going to be making their way through the manor house, right? It's like Death House in Curse of Strahd. Death House doesn't say, like, and the party receives a notice that tells them to go upstairs and then right? The party's just going to keep exploring until they find treasure, which means they're going to go into all of the rooms. This is a very, like, OD&D way to prep a dungeon, is to be like, the players want treasure. They're going to explore all of these fucking rooms. Like, there's no doubt there. All right, cool. So we have the exterior room. We have the ballroom, which is this, like, major dynamic combat. What are some other areas of the house that we think have some excitement to be had there? Like, what are some other kind of interesting things? The questions I have, obviously we need some kind of vault or place where precious items are kept. It could be the personal rooms of the bard. It could be a vault beneath the house. I don't particularly know which. Other things that I could see, there's often fun to be had in kitchens and studies and libraries, in this kind of place, in like a manor house. There's like art rooms and dining rooms and all kinds of odd squirrely corners. Is there anything that people are like immediately excited about? Because I kind of lobbed ballroom in pretty quick.
I mean, it's a bard's house. It could have like a mini theater.
Ooh,
there's
so
like a full
different
stage.
types. Different schools of bard, like bard colleges here in this one place is pretty cool.
Yeah, what are the new 2024 bard subclasses? It's dance.
Oh.
It's dance, lore. Dance is the new combat one. Lore is another one. And then there was a bunch in before the 2024
Dance,
update.
glamour, lore, and valor.
So dance, glamour, lore, and valor. So if we have dance covered by the ballroom, that gives us glamour, lore, and valor. I kind of like that these almost feel like challenges.
Yeah.
And I like that because we can seed it in the setup. So whenever you're making the hook for your adventure, it can really help to have there be lore about the place. Now, if you're like a lot of GMs and you come up with the place about 13 minutes before everybody walks in, this idea is kind of off the table. But that's the benefit of coming up with it ahead of time or stealing our ideas off of our stream, is you know in advance what they are going to be dealing with and you can kind of fill in a little bit. So assuming that the ballroom is meant to test their abilities of dance, right? Because they need to keep up with everything. I think that makes sense. Glamour, it feels like to me, is the sort of theater equivalent of this. So is there like a large amphitheater in the backyard, or is there a theater built into the house somewhere?
I think a theater built into the house with like opera boxes. And if you investigate the opera boxes, that's where you find one of the, treasures.
So what is the challenge in the theater, though? The doors open up into the theater, and you are meant to have your glamour challenged, your ability to wow an audience, to hold and enamor a crowd of people. I'm imagining a little bit of a gladiator's bout. I'm not sure how workable that would be. That's my first instinct, is you need to attack and defend with grand flourishes of skill. What I like about that is the DM gets to introduce it on the bad guy's turn. If you all spend your turns straight up the Black Company style, being like, I stab forward, my shield raised, then at the end of your turn you hear loud spectral boos coming from the audience. And then
could be debuffed with like tomatoes getting thrown.
God,
then,
tomato,
and then
throwing tomatoes at your party's hilarious.
On the turn of whoever our nefarious, whoever our troupe of vicious animated actors are, on their turn they are way over the top and flamboyant, exposing themselves to danger, but they're getting like cheered by the crowd, and so they're getting healed and buffed and blessed and all of this nonsense, and so it kind of forces the party to be over the top. I love that for the lawful good paladins that need to start doing the Dougie on stage just to try to get a little bit of help.
We can't do this thing that I'm about to pitch, but I need to say it anyways.
All right.
You get up there and you have to drift horse with your companions and deliver a monologue. For those who are watching at home, drift horsing is something that me and Michael came up with in our home game. I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yes, that was it. That was in the Theros home game off stream. During our live Theros game, we had two running at the same time.
Where you have to say one word and then the other person has to say the next word, and you are giving the illusion that you're one creature speaking. So it'd be like, I
think
you
should
do
great
things.
Yeah.
with.
And that's it.
They were the front and ass end of a centaur.
Yes.
They had both cast Disguise Self on themselves, and so they had to drift horse to say the words, which was pretty good. I think that that's one of the options, but I have to trust the sort of sanctity of the player's own mind. So I think this is just a straight up fight, but with showmanship mechanics.
You gotta do it with some flourish.
With every attack roll, you also have to roll a charisma roll.
Yeah, you can. You can always take the charisma roll to try to do it with flourish and excess. And I think if you fail, you get disadvantage on the attack, but you still, maybe the audience will still eat it up. You know, who can say? A cabinet is on stage filled with spooky marionettes. Yes, James, that come alive and you must perform a play or they attack. Oh, they're marionettes on stage. They're hanging from strings. That's awful. We're doing it. We're doing it, James. All right, I think we're here. I'm going to add plus marionettes.
Now hear me
I
out.
really.
With
Go
the
ahead.
marionettes, after you take control of them, there can be some cursed object thing involved, where if you're not doing it right, you take damage. Like your marionette gets stabbed in the play, and you get stabbed
Oh, no.
IRL.
I was thinking, like, when
A
you get up on
life-size.
stage, a full-sized, human-sized marionette on strings falls from the rafters and starts to dance on stage, and that's who you're fighting on stage for the
Gross.
combat.
It's a cool idea to have a voodoo doll thing though. Too.
The
That,
puppet play.
Oh, you know what that is? If the players don't get up on stage. One of the marionettes, like, draws a small puppet in the air and then stabs it with a dagger, and one of the players like actually gets stabbed is extremely good. I love the idea that it's like, well, no, when you step through the front door, you accepted all of the trials.
You're in.
You know what I mean? Like, you
In
don't...
really fine print, it says like you've accepted this decree if you enter into the room.
Just for fun, I want there to be like a big phrase in Latin on like the proscenium arch of the theater that if you like somebody rolls history to translate it, it's just if you're gonna be dumb, then you gotta be tough. So like if you're too stupid to entertain the crowd, then you better be tough enough to win either way. Because like it's not unwinnable without having flourish. It's just gonna suck. It's just gonna be like really bad.
because it's glamour, should we have anything with charm in this little thing?
I don't think so. I think that the
With the
charm
new-
is not magical.
With the new 2024 charmed mechanic, which is just that the creature that is charmed against you cannot attack you, because that's all charmed is in the 2024 conditions, I think you actually could, if somebody rolls a 20 on their performance, then the enemies are charmed for the round. And so they will attack
fun.
everybody but them. It's a relatively minor buff, but on a spellcaster or something, it's going to really make a difference. They get that nat 20 and they can do whatever they want. They can like run through the middle of the combat, get to whatever position they want, buff and attack people pretty much at will with pretty free liberty. So I like that idea of like a that's right, nat 20.
In the, well, I will say too, because of the theming, if enemies roll a nat 20, they also get that though.
Of course, I
You
think
were
that makes
charmed
perfect
by the
sense if
enemy,
one of them
yeah.
does, yeah. I also think I like usually there to be some kind of non-combat option. I think we've done well in both of these cases where if you make like a series of DC 20 performance checks, then eventually, right?
standing ovation.
Yeah, you get the standing ovation and the combat doesn't need to happen. Most parties aren't going to bother with that. But it's always fun to have that as like something that could happen accidentally. Just having the margins like during the combat in the theater, if they succeed on 10 checks, like not like everybody needs to succeed 10 times, like the total, if they reach 10 successes, the combat ends as the crowd erupts into cheers and the marionettes fall limp is very funny. To have the party suddenly win without meaning to.
I think it'd be cool if the marionettes just walked off stage and joined the crowd.
Just
join the
applauding.
They're
join
sitting
it.
there clapping. I could see that, and I think if we tie it into the first room, the ballroom, the success would be if the party isn't fighting and all of them are dancing along and they get to 10 successes, then there's a bow from the creatures and they're able to pass through. No combat involved. You succeeded on enough checks that you've finished the song.
But if you fail, you will be attacked. So the entire party needs to coordinate. We've made the only adventure that you really want to be Oops All Bards for.
Yeah.
That it's like, no, the ideal situation is that we are Oops All Bards, I think is pretty funny. All right, so that is dance and glamour taken care of. Next up, we have kind of some tougher nuts to crack here. We have lore and valor.
I've got something for lore.
Pop off.
Now, it's not combat. It would be a social encounter. You get to the library room. It is a door or a fully like smooth wall with the thing ablazing on the top saying library wing, and you just can't go in. There's clearly no entrance, or the door's barred. You can't get through. You have to talk to the door or talk to the wall and convince it of your reason for being here. You need to get it on your side to let you through, because College of Lore emphasizes and expands the Bard's core capabilities. It's all about support and filling in everything else. So you're saying, like, I'm great. We should be allowed to come into the library. It's a social encounter convincing the door to let you through.
So I'm fine with that. I need one other way in. I need another trick. That's all. So I think number one is the door is what I'm thinking of specifically. This is like the ultimate callback to my childhood of liking fantasy. The demon doors in Fable. They were these like massive stone doors with a face that would be like, I can't let you in. You don't know my name. And you'd have to like go do a whole fucking quest to learn this door's name so that you could walk up to the door and say its name and the door would open. So I kind of like the idea that it doesn't need to be like a bunch of puzzles, but there's a door that's like, I don't want to let you in. And then I like that because that's like the front-facing aspect of lore, right? Is being able to argue your case, I do think is lore. There should be another one where it's like, you can find like a secret entrance that requires like esoteric weird knowledge to know where it is. Like I'm thinking of Men in Black. They're like, that thing is pointing at that thing that has this number on it. We need to go to that locker at the train station. What were you thinking?
Hear me out. The lore room is the final room that you are meant to go to. There's a puzzle aspect to this that the party can keep track of. After you complete each room, you get one of the primary magical instruments that this bard used. You get the one, you get the next one, and you get up to the door and he's like, you're not in charge of me. You're not the master of the manor. I'm not letting you into shit. You can convince him otherwise. Or he'll say, show me. Show me the master. Show me the instruments.
You need the shoes of Alathander. You need the gloves of Alathander. You need to wear the outfit. Oh, that's pretty good.
And then he goes, and he's like, all right, you're in. Come on through.
All right, so it's library, social, or items. Okay, fair enough. I think that's pretty good. And I think there's some easy lore tie-in way there. I'm not sure what it is. Something about the way the door speaks will give away that he is looking for you to have something that you do not have, right? He's suggesting...
Why, master? What strange shoes you have on?
Yeah, there you go, exactly. What strange shoes? I've
never seen you without your clarinets.
Play me the song of your youth, master.
No, see, this would be fun for nobody, but it would be great for the GM to be like, excuse me, you haven't been to in the bard's bedroom, you could find the song that first inspired is so good.
That is forcing them to get the information.
We're deep in like White Plume Mountain AD&D headspace right now, which I think is really funny. I do want to say, going back just a little bit, the ballroom magic item should be tap shoes. And I stand by that. All right, cool. So we have the ballroom, we have the theater, we have the library, we have the front gate, and we have dance, glamour, and lore covered. Lore being either the final challenge or one that you just need to be, I think, actually well-versed to answer, right? Either you can know all of this stuff about the bard that you've learned as you've gone through the manor, or you can just show up with the magic items and be let through that way. That's good. Literally, you need to know the bard's lore to get through the door, I think works. That leaves us with Valor.
I have an idea for Valor a little bit.
Okay, the little bit makes me nervous, but I trust you.
It's so Valor's. I read a little bit about the College of Valor, and it's all about like it's a lot of being in the bars and like hyping up the heroes of the world and just carrying on their name.
Yes.
I think it'd be cool to make a hero. Be in this mansion's bar room, and make a hero out of stuff that you had to fight. Like it could be like 10 enemies in here, and you 5 of these enemies have special looking either weapons or equipment, something, and there's a statue that you have to put all these items on.
A mannequin that needs to be adorned in that guy's breastplate and this dude's sword and that guy's shield is pretty cool. And once that's been crafted, you progress.
So the ballroom is having to sort of fade into the thing. The theater is needing to stay dynamic and interesting while you deliver your attacks and dialogue. The library requires you to either know the lore of the bard or to have dominated the other trials thus far. And then this final one, you need to do it is what is a bard's true purpose, and it's to make heroes of average men. And so you need to sort of, okay, I think that's pretty interesting. The only thing I would like to change, I don't it's too noodly. I don't know. I would love for you to have to do combats where you either have to like bring along some dipshit NPC, like you have to make a hero of a mortal man and you get awarded with the gear at the end. Because I just don't, the only weird thing here for me is to make the hero you beat the shit out of 6 random people in a bar. That's not
fair,
really. That's
what
not
is
really
a hero if not just a thug that beats the shit out of people?
They're not in the world of Dungeons and Dragons. They are people that have, vanquished great evils and done good deeds, right?
There was you guys played this in Theros. Where you I need to pull back. There's an adventure called Masks of Theros. I took that. It's from Drive Through RPG. I took that and homebrewed the absolute hell out of it and made our own campaign that we streamed. One thing that I didn't really homebrew, though, was one of the trials to get one of the pieces of the mask was going to a temple that had a relief painted on it of a guy. He had to go through, like, each wall of the temple, and there was a bit of a story that he had to get through. Like, at one point, he's in the woods, and you see the town start burning. And the hero looks to you, and you have to tell the hero, go to the city and rescue them. The hero goes to the city and has to rescue the people. The next wall is him in the city, and there's a bunch of zombies, and there's, like, a sword on the wall. You say, grab the sword off the wall. He grabs the sword off the wall, kills the zombies. If he doesn't grab the sword and you say, like, fight, he gets killed by the zombies. That shit rips so hard. And if we can do something akin to that without absolutely ripping off that adventure, it would be cool. Is there anything
that's not the first adventure to think of, a puzzle where you need to guide a guy through some stuff, right?
Hell yeah.
We all need to remember that everything comes from everywhere else. I've been doing, for those of you who don't know, if you watch the YouTube videos, I do the research for Spencer's YouTube videos. Believe you me, every D&D thing you like was in a fantasy book 2 years earlier, and they just really liked that. It's everything I've looked up is like, by the way, the Black Company came out 2 years earlier, and it's kind of like that. There's always there. I think that's fairly interesting. I have to be honest, this is where we are going to run into a little bit of a, again, like with the riddles, a difference of opinion. I adored your campaign. In that section of the campaign, I was like, fucking all right. Yeah, tell the guy to get the sword campaign, and kill this. All right, fine. Yeah. Can I fight the fucking zombies? Like, it turns into a little bit of a circle. But for some people, that's what they want. And listen, there's 3 pillars of D&D: combat, social, and exploration, and not everybody gets to love each one equally, and this is just deep in that like exploration puzzle solving that a lot of people are like absolutely die hard for. So I think that's great. Okay, so you go into a tavern, and there's these ghostly figures telling the story of a hero, and there's like 4 groups. Each time you walk up to one of the I've got it. I know what it is.
Oh.
You walk up, there's 4 different groups
yeah.
sitting at different, like 2 are at tables, 2 are at the bar. You walk up to the group, and they're telling the story of a hero, but the hero keeps losing and like badly failing the story. And you need to, and like as you start to weave in, I think you get like transported to the story, and you have to do like a little skill challenge in one of them to help out this hero to succeed, and in another you need to like do something else, and in a third it's a fight, and in a fourth you need to do something. And maybe you always have the option to fight, but it's better to like find some way to make them succeed. That's my first inclination. Michael, you clearly had a pretty big idea.
It's same idea as I had before, but it fixes the needing to fight enemies. It's animated clothing, animated weapons.
You have to beat the shit out of the animated clothing and weapons and put it on the mannequin.
Yeah.
I just like the idea of there being a hero that you have to go. I do like. Okay. There's 2 options to solve every room. Option 1 is you go into this room, you sit down at the table with these spirits telling this tale, and they say, the great hero, and then they look to you for a name, and that you say a name, and his compatriots, the party's names, and then they enter the vision. The other option is, on the wall, there's a mannequin sitting there, there's the armor over there. You go to grab the armor and the weapon, and they come to life. Then you beat the shit out of them. You can dress up the mannequin. So it's embracing the action of the room, or just saying, fuck this, I'm gonna go kill these things, and put it on the mannequin.
Okay, so you go to take one off the wall, and one of the shadows goes, "Stop it! The storyteller hasn't finished his tale
Yeah,
yet."
we haven't gotten to that part yet. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you go. All right, and it's a little mini, incredibly itty bitty dungeon. It's like skill challenge, fight, skill challenge. It'll take, maybe 30 minutes to get through that room. Okay, cool. So, bar/tavern. Tail challenge for gear. Pardon me, I'm so sorry. My drink went down the wrong pipe, and I still haven't gotten it out yet.
And that's most of the rooms here. That's most of the main rooms. The shit you have to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So that gets you access to the ballroom, the theater, the library, and the tavern. Does the library have our great final magical prize? Or once you have done all of these things, do you then gain access to blah, 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 blah?
I think after you get into the library, you get access to his chamber. There can be like a set of keys, an illusory door that you walk up and you grab the handle and it opens, and you're in his room. And in that room, you can get it. But I would set it so you have to do the other 3 things first.
Yeah.
Like, even if you overpower
Art thou light of foot and fleet of tongue? Hast thou a brave heart and an eye for the truth? Right? You need to pass all these trials, and then the door becomes corporal. I think you're just right. I think there's just like, specifically, I always love the idea of just like the spectral doorway that becomes real and leads into like the demiplane, the Otto's Tower, or whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay, so that sounds good to me. So then room 6 is like treasure room, personal quarters. And then I think personal quarters. My reward for this, if I was running a level 10 game, is when you step out of the doorway after looting it, the door shrinks down, and I can't remember, there's a magic item that does this, and then it's like a little pocket thing that you can set up for a long rest.
You get like Mordenkainen's Magnificent Mansion, you get that shit.
There's an item that does it, I just don't remember the name off the top of my head.
Michael, what were you gonna say?
If it would be a little bit more work, but I think it could be cool for each of the necessary rooms, we give a magic item also, but it's a cursed magic item.
Until you collect all of them, or just period?
Oh, what was that?
Like until you collect all of them together, or they're just
Oh
going to
no,
be cursed
these
forever?
are forever. It'd be like three extra cursed items.
In my
I
experience,
think
cursed
funny.
items rarely pay off. I'd say one, certainly. Anything more than that, and the players aren't going to trust any of the magic items they find in the dungeon.
Hear
Well, I
me
don't
out.
think that any of them are bad curses too, though.
Hear me out on this.
Sorry.
If
Okay.
the party doesn't approach the rooms with love in their heart and stars in their eyes, and they just try and overpower them, they get the cursed version of the object. It still functions, but it does have a drawback. If they do the room as intended, they get the prime version with no curse attached to it. Like, you overpower it.
I will give it to you if, when they are done, those curses go away.
After they do all of the rooms.
Yes, that is all I will get. Is as if when they pass through the threshold into the inner sanctum, all of the curses dissipate. I will take it. Without that, it just feels like. Because what if you just want to run it and your party doesn't have a bard? Like, what if you're running this for a fighter and a sorcerer and a warlock and nobody took performance? They're going to fight their way through. I want to always give them some opportunities to still get the spoils. Specifically, I don't know why I'm attached to this idea that the bard is like, you can be stupid if you're tough enough to deal with the consequences for being stupid. Just because that feels like a bard thing.
It does.
Right? Is
Yeah.
I'll talk my way out. Unless I do not. Unless it goes the other way.
And that's where the armor comes in.
And that's where the armor comes in. Yeah, exactly. If any of you watched our Theros live stream, Barry loves to talk to people until he needs to start throwing around lightning bolts and doing some damage, right? You know, there's always that borderline
Time and place.
that you cross at some point.
Can I say my one cursed item idea?
Yes,
Sure.
go ahead.
It is a ring of command. A certain amount of times per day you get to cast command for free. But the curse is whatever you say to them is also said to you.
You get hit with a command.
You also
It's
have
a
to roll the
rebound.
save.
Same command.
I was going to say my magic item and cursed magic item are boots of striding and springing, which makes it so you don't get encumbered with heavy armor or carrying a bunch of stuff. And you can jump 3 times the normal distance. And my pitch would be, if it's cursed, you do jump that 3x distance, but you take fall damage.
You're not immune
every
to the
time you do it. Yeah, you just
Super
fall and hurt
strength
yourself.
without super durability. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fair. We had a
Do you
monster
have,
like that 200 years ago when Spencer and I first started playing D&D at the beginning of college. I was a very new DM already in love with homebrew, and I had these vampires where the transformation goes wrong. They have a strength of 30. They had a strength of 30 and a constitution of 6. Because they were and so anytime
Big
they would do
blood bags.
damage, they would damage themselves. Like they would punch a wall and the bones in their hands would shatter because their bodies couldn't take the strength they could produce. Okay, cool. So I think those are good magic item ideas. Don't let those slip because we still need to do those and then at least come up with a couple of monster concepts. We got 30 minutes left, so we got plenty of time. We do have another spot if we wanted to come up with one more room. I don't really think we need one, but if we had one more idea we were excited by, we could take the time to do it.
Like
I
one
don't-
more optional room.
I don't have any ideas for things that I feel like are missing. The only thing that's obviously missing is like a kitchen. That's sort of the big thing that has a big question mark in the air for me. So there's the kitchen, and that's about it. What would be in the kitchen? Would we have this be a combat encounter?
I don't
Just
know.
to
I
fill
really
it
don't.
out?
I really have no idea at all.
Yeah,
I will say, is the bar not also the kitchen?
good point.
Is the kitchen behind the bar or something?
Yeah. I would see, I'm picturing a full tavern in my head that you walk into and there's this big tavern. I think attached to that would be the kitchen. So you walk through that and it's like back into a regular manor with a regular kitchen. So in that's the room for my pitch. I think that's the only thing that I would add in. Everything else seems pretty obviously covered. Except for
think
basement,
Bard, I
full of
think
rats.
bedroom.
Get out of here. We can't do the hoardy bar joke. All right.
No.
I unfortunately
Yeah.
think if we don't have any idea for the kitchen, it's time to move on to the magic items, and we're gonna have to come up with it off stream if we come up with it at all. These things, they do happen. All right, so we can't have dead air. This is radio. Everybody knows how good radio's doing. Radio's hotter than it's
burgeoning
ever
industry.
been. All right, so we need magic items for the ballroom, for the theater, for the library, and for the tavern. We know what the magic item for the overall place is, right? It's this mansion that you can bring anywhere you want. So that is your final prize, right? It is this mansion door. I think those as items are kind of underrated. You can use them as troop carriers. You can use them to feed people. You can do 95 things with those. And somebody right now is saying, well, technically, usually in the rules, it can't be moved with anybody inside. Relax. It's
Not
a safe
ours.
place to put a bunch of people for a little while. Chill. God forbid I want to give the players a Pokeball. All right.
Ours moves. So number one, the ring that Michael pitched. I think that would be good in the College of Lore. The command makes sense. So that would be... where did we set up lore? That's
The library.
That's in the library, yeah.
Yeah, Lord's Library.
So, it's a command ring called Shush.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because that's a one-word response, and you could do it to somebody in the library and make them stop talking. If gotten incorrectly, it bears it bears the curse.
Reflect or mirror.
Do as I say, not as I do. Do as I say, ... And that is
Monkey see,
command
monkey
is
do.
flipped. And what I like about that is it invites cleverness, and I think you shouldn't punish the players. If they give it to the monk, and the monk just keeps saying, disarm, they have outsmarted
Right.
the magic item. Perfect. All the monk keeps doing is opening and closing their hands, and then everything else is fine with no worries. I think that's pretty good. So the command ring lets you what? It lets you cast command like 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Cast command a few
Recharge.
times a day, 3 per day or something like that. Is there another like minor? If it's called Shush, I think you can cast command 3 times a day, and you can cast silence once.
Sure.
Yeah.
Great. So
I
a
love
ring
silence.
called Shush that he famously had on him to like silence hecklers in the audience, and that is in the library for a similar purpose. All right.
Power
so
kill.
power hysterical. You hear a musical sting from stage. You have a heart attack. You drop dead. All right. We have dance, glamour, and valor left. For dance, I think it would be hilarious for it to be shoes. My instinct is to say it's tap shoes. That doesn't actually make sense for ballroom dancing. I just think it's hysterical to get magic tap shoes that as you are walking down the street, like tip tip tap tip tap tip tap tip tap tip tap as you walk like against your will.
Give it 3 times per day. You can cast. What's the?
Auto's irresistible dance.
What was it?
Auto's
Not
irresistible
as
dance.
irresistible dance.
That's no. Shatter or one of the other ones that big
Noisy
thunderous damage. It's like cast out like a bonus action, like 2 times per day.
Sure.
Now,
I'm down to do that. I don't want
did-
these all to just be you get some spells, magic items. That's my only counterpoint.
I
You said you
did
don't
pitch-
want that?
I do not want that.
Okay.
Spencer.
I did pitch boots with the boots of striding and springing.
Oh,
so
sure.
we can go over it, but that was one of the previous pitches. So I wanted to reiterate.
We can have 2 boots.
We can't.
No.
It's supposed to be the outfit of the one guy. All right, so dance. I will say shoes of some kind. My the humor of it being tap shoes, I'm willing to let go of. So what do the boots of striding and leaping do? Because I don't like to use SRD items if I can instead make something fun to put a spin on.
It is, while you wear these boots, your walking speed becomes 30 feet unless your walking speed is higher, and your speed isn't reduced if you are encumbered or wearing heavy armor. In addition, you can jump 3 times the normal distance, though you can't jump farther than your remaining movement would allow.
I'm gonna keep jump, and I don't think I particularly care about being able to carry over your thing or being able to have heavy armor. So what are some more bard-centered things here? Jump. I'm tempted to give advantage on performance checks that have to do with dancing.
What about you could take someone with you on your movement without it hurting you? Like partner up. Something like that. If we're getting this in the ballroom, it's you grab your partner and you carry them to the next location.
Yeah, I like it. It's kind of like a cheap Misty Step.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are briefly blessed with supernatural strength but you have to like pick them up in a dance. You have to do like the dirty dancing lift as you run 30 feet across the room. I do think that is pretty funny. Okay, cool. So it's jump and then partner up, and then the potential curse is my knee.
Your speed is reduced to 0.
My knee! It's just anytime you do the jump, you like really badly jam your knee, you take some damage.
Yeah. No, that works. I like that better.
What were you about to say?
I was going to say, after you carry somebody with you, your speed is reduced to 0 for the next round.
Both really good options. I tell you what, I'll do my knee and I'll do damage
2 left feet.
Or 0 after partner. Great. Okay, 2 more magic items to come up with here. When you're planning high-level adventures, you gotta put on your thinking cap as far as magic items are concerned. You gotta get ready to just sort of sling some stuff at the wall. A really good way to tell if something is kind of out of whack, any spell that is being provided by a magic item, if it is a higher level than the party can naturally cast, then it should be a consumable item that goes away. If it is the same level or lower, 3 times a day, forever. And I don't recommend, this is a pet peeve of mine, this item can hold up to 6 charges. It recharges 1d4 plus 1. Just have it recharge all the fucking charges. Nobody cares.
Too much.
I tend to recommend give it less charges and have it recharge every long rest, right? Instead of having it have 6. Let it have 3 and have them always come back. You know what it reminds me of? Nobody, back in like the 3rd edition days, it's still true in Pathfinder, you used to buy wand of Cure Light Wounds with 75 charges, and between combats you would just thump, 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 thump at each other until everyone was healed. Hysterical, sort of a little bit of old world blues for you there. What were we about to say?
For Valor, I had an idea.
Yeah,
for
sure.
Spell, or for an item. You get the Orb of Stories. It's whatever you're saying, it recreates it as like a video almost in the orb. It gives like a +2 or +3 at like deceptions, or not even deceptions, charisma, not charismas, but anything you're trying to explain with this orb.
Yeah, so you said it, you had it correct. A charisma-based skill check is what it would sort of give you the bonus to. That's funny. What I was thinking is you would have something that would let you summon the hero that you came up with in your little scene. That you would have something that would let you, like, summon Pontilyax the Golden. It's like Dragonborn or whatever.
The idea of carrying around a VCR on a big TV is so funny, though. We can cover both.
The orb is this big.
If you have the orb... Yeah, the orb is massive. If you have the orb, it gives you advantage on all charisma-based, whatevers, as long as it's attuned to you. And once per day, you can summon Pontilyax the Golden. And he jumps out of the screen, a la The Ring.
I like the mechanic of it being able to conjure illusions to show people. I don't like it being a TV orb at all. It's not very bardly.
It's not actually
Can it be a flute
orb
or something? Like, I don't even want it to be an orb this big. I don't think that makes any fucking sense. It's a bard. Yeah. It's his magic item. Is it a flute? Is it a lute? Is it a lyre? Is it, I don't know, some other... Is it bagpipes? I don't really care what it is. I just don't think it should be an orb.
Okay.
I will say bards can wear leather armor, and I think they can use shields that aren't like kite shields or something. So I could see a glimmering shield that Pontilyax the Golden equips as one of his final items, and you can use that as a reflection to show tail. So instead of an orb, it would be a shield. if we want to keep the
You're
flavor.
opposed to
You
just a
can veto
violin
it.
that conjures illusions? It feels weird to be
Yeah.
like, the bard who carries magical instruments also has a glimmering golden kite shield that summons an ally. It just feels like a weird...
And we haven't
I'm
done the
down for it.
instruments yet.
I've just never seen art of a bard like, here is my one-handed instrument and my shield
my
given by
shield."
my father, Ariax. It's like, what are you talking about, brother? If this is supposed to be like a super archetypical bard, I just can't imagine this dude pulling out a kite shield.
What's the remaining room we haven't done yet?
The theater.
Theater. Okay. Then yes, I don't think we're gonna do an instrument for the theater. So what instrument do we think goes the hardest for this?
Something that like gets you really lost in kind of the sauce of the moment a little bit. I think is something when I think of instruments that are
Xylophone.
associated. So it's an instrument for telling a story while you use it. So it's not going to be a wind instrument, right? It's not going to be like a flute or anything. The Brandon Sanderson flans are like, actually, wind tends to... And I'm like, shut up.
Yeah.
It's easier to talk when you don't have something stuck in your mouth.
One of
A
those
flute you
singing
can kind of
bowls.
get away with, right? But I'm imagining something more along the lines of like a stringed instrument or drums or something. Drums are
lyre.
like traditionally used along drums and harps, I think, usually accompany like the telling of long epic poems.
It's more our world, not fantasy world. An accordion.
An accordion's hilarious. That's a fairly old instrument. I think what's it called? There's a name for the simpler version. So the accordion comes later, but I think it's called like, I don't remember what it is. It's smaller. It's called like a rhythmica or some nonsense. It's like a smaller, easier to use one that is basically just an air bladder with some like keys attached.
The flutina or the hand aeoline are the two that came up for me.
Honestly, the flutina of the Eastern Sea goes kind of crazy. I don't hate that.
Or we could go for a straight up and down lute if we're going for the archetypical view of a bard. I think a lute would be one of the big things.
Yes, I think the name of the thing I'm thinking of is called a concertina.
Concertina.
I might be wrong about that. Maybe it's not as old as I think it is. I just thought that it was like the precursor. Is the concertina like a little...
Yeah, it's a little like octagonal thing.
Yeah.
Concertina. I was about to say release date.
Concertina. When's the new concertina dropping?
When was it invented? Is what I meant to look up.
Early
1829
That's
by Sir
so
Charles
late.
Wheatstone.
That's so late. All right, never mind. All right, then, yeah, I think it's got to go with... What was your other idea? You just said it, and it already slipped my mind.
A lute.
I think... the lute of the Eastern Star. You start to pluck strings, and it creates this, like, swirling illusion around you of what is there. Now, here's my
Sounds
question. If this lute summons illusions for storytelling, basically like a major image, but really maneuverable, and it can summon the hero, what the hell is the curse?
The hero appears, but it isn't necessarily friendly. It just attacks anybody, a la like devils or demons that you summon in the game. So it will attack you and the thing you're fighting. So it brings in an additional enemy.
That's really funny. It's like a really messed, like the arm is coming up through the top of his head. It sounds like a really bad janky. You know what I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of for those of you, I assume anybody who watches this stream watched the Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves movie that just came out. The scene where the illusion starts to break down.
Yeah.
And like his mouth starts to melt and
That
like
sounds good
drip
scene.
open. I think that one would work pretty well there. All right, so it's like an enemy kind of deal there. Okay, cool. One more magic item in the form of our theater, and then we should talk about at least one enemy. We only got 14 minutes left, so we do need to pick up the pace of smidge.
All
so
right.
what is the theater's magic item? We have shoes, we have a ring, and we have a lute. I think we're really hitting the sort of strides. My first instinct is a big hat, but
Here's the thing. I'm looking at what we've covered so far. We got shoes, we got a ring, and we got fucking an instrument.
Yes.
Per square footage on the body, we're looking at legs and chest. We haven't covered either of those. So for like visual seeing, the master wearing the clothes, I think it's got to be like a big ass, like smoking jacket or something.
Yeah, my first instinct is the doublet of disguise.
Yeah,
right?
I was
It's this,
thinking
like,
something disguising as well.
Beautiful quilted doublet that if you shine one of the buttons, it will transform and you will it'll cast disguise self.
So funny. Michael, what were you gonna say?
I just think with bards, capes.
I'll do. So here's what I'll make the offer then. I'm cool with either, and I think it could be the very same. So it's either this an outfit that changes, or it's a cape that if you like swoosh it in front of you, you will be disguised as you swoosh it.
I think that it would be doublet and cape. I think it just goes together, and you swoosh the cape around, and you are disguised. If it's cursed, I think the curse is you always become the same person.
It's
so
the
like if the
same
bounty
meta.
goes out on that guy, like you just are still that guy with the bounty on you.
That's really funny. All right, so cape and doublet.
It's just you with a mustache.
James said a fluffy tuxedo shirt and accompanying gold chain, which the chain would be cursed and gives you ridiculous amounts of chest hair.
Oh no, wait, that's the guy you turn into. You turn into this like greasy car salesman who's like, I can get you in a 2006 Accord tomorrow. Like,
Negative charisma. It drops your charisma when you're transformed.
-2. That is really funny. And I do think our doublet can be like a billowing white shirt. I think is extremely good. What everything else gets one more powerful ability that it can use more rarely. What does the doublet, cape and doublet of disguise? So you can like swish to disguise yourself, but that's a pretty low level spell. What's like the meaty thing that this outfit can do?
Gives you fly. You hold the cape out.
Fly once a day, I don't dislike at all. I don't mind that whatsoever. Fly would be extremely funny. My only other thought was like you could use it to cast shield or something if we wanted to be like really on the nose. But I'm fine either
Yeah,
way.
you hold it out. I think at this point
Sorry, the
most
tuxedo mask as shield doing this is extremely good. We don't have to use that now. Put that feather in your cap somewhere. We got to do that sometime.
I'm saying right now, I think
Cape and
that's what
shield.
we're doing, because I think that at this point, most people would have some fly capability in their party's kit. So I think having just you get additional defense holding the cape out in
And
front
it's
of you
so
is
nice to
cool.
not have to stock shield. It's like not having to stock mage armor. Like it's such a relief to be like, don't need to stock shield. I don't need to permanently take up one of my first level spots.
Yeah,
I can
good.
just boom and take care of it. Is always pretty good. Shield, I'll just write X per day. My personal favorite go-to, if I can recommend, if you're like, how many charges I feel like I'm assigning a random number. A number of charges equal to your charisma modifier is a great way around that, especially if the item is themed as strongly as these are. So it's shoes, a cape and doublet, a command ring, and a loot. And if you show up to all of those at the library, wait, the ring's inside the library. So if you show up wearing the shoes, the cape, and the loot, the door opens, you collect the ring, and then you can access his private quarters. Once you are inside, all of the curses break, and the door shrinks as you leave, and you can pick it up and take it with you.
Cinema.
All right, the only thing we technically have left, although I think we did it with the ballroom encounter, typically we try to come up with a monster. We don't have very much time. We got about 9 minutes on the clock here. Do we want to try to flush one of these out, or do we think that it is enough of a monster to say that the ballroom has these like swirling spectral ghosts and these flying instruments, and that you just sort of have to tank those out? We loosely describe monsters in each room. We just didn't really drill down for details.
If I were gonna do a design, I would do the mannequin monster. That's what I would focus on for custom abilities and creation. Whereas the instruments are, floating instruments. The things are invisible people who beat your ass.
All right,
Pretty fairly typical D&D stuff. But the mannequin, I think, is pretty unique.
I'm going to make a reference for nobody, unless somebody else listening to this show went to graduate school for theater and had to read too many books. This monster stat block is called the Uber Marionette. All right. So,
any of our 3 viewers right now?
what are you thinking? Any of you guys
grad
up on?
students?
Does the name Edward Gordon Craig mean anything to you? Give him a Google. He was weird. Uber Marionette. All right, cool. So what do we think is like the keynote ability of this creature? Obviously, there's going to be 4 versions of it, so we can kind of haze our vision and focus on the big identifying markers. So there are some things about a marionette that immediately draw my attention. Number 1, marionettes are not bound by the laws of gravity because they are attached to strings that go up. Number 2, they have strings, and I feel like interfering with those strings, either you should be able to interfere with them or they should be able to use them as weapons. And
Number 2.
that's the 2 big ones I have. I don't have like a third cool marionette fact other than that they're creepy.
Number 3, we make the marionette the master as well, and they have the little marionette voodoo dolls of your party, and they stab them and it hurts you. So that way the back line is never truly defended. It can still attack the back line from wherever it is.
I think the third thing is they're on strings and they can fly.
Yeah, the imagery of the marionette flying into the air, into like the darkness up above, terrible.
Okay. All right. So I think we've just made classes of these things, which I like. So I think the first group has blink, but that blink is them disappearing into the darkness of the catwalks above. They just vanish at the end of their turn. So it's prepared actions and all kinds of shenanigans to try to do damage to them. All right, blink marionettes, great. That is our kind of striker, quick on their feet, deadly. And then we have another. These ones are our kind of control, and they have these little marionette dolls that they can manipulate. Does that go as far as being like a charm or dominate person kind of equivalent? Like, can they move it and you will move like that? Or is it just a way to inflict harm?
I could see them having an action in their action economy that does something like push back 10 feet, pull forward 10 feet. But for the most part, it's inflicting harm. So it's not a legendary action necessarily, but you know, if they have 3 actions, one of them can be move one person forward or back 10 feet.
Distance damage plus move. Okay, cool. So they're sort of closer to like an artillery character, which I like. Specifically, the image I have that I think is very funny, because I don't want it to just be auto damage. That kind of sucks. I like the idea that they hold up the marionette doll and then they like pass a candle underneath it, and you need to roll a dex save as fire sprouts under your feet.
Yeah.
If they go to stab, they need to roll against your AC, as we all watch that little marionette trying to get out of the way, just like you are. And you all just see this massive dagger appear out of the spectral sky.
From the darkness again is crazy.
Yeah.
Distance
At that
damage.
point, I think I have my character sprint up there to think that there's a monster up there fighting to fight.
At that point, I'm running for the catwalk so I can start cutting string. Are you shitting me? That's terrible.
So we have a striker, we have an artillery. Now I need one of these mannequins to be big and awful. Enchanted strings of spider climb. That's good, James. Also, the toupee of many hairstyles changes your hairstyle. That's one of the fun items. The toupee of many styles.
That's good.
The toupee of many styles is a good magic item. That's extremely funny.
It's
If
one of the
you're-
hidden ones.
Yeah, if your characters roll like an 18, 19, 20 on like perception investigation for stuff, they get that.
Curses,
That's-
if you stay attuned for more days than is equal to your charisma modifier, you gain male pattern baldness as a curse. Too good, too good, too good.
No!
All right, so what is like the big bruiser version of these marionettes? What does it do? Because so one of them can like blink in and out and do some sneak attack damage, which is great. Another one can hurt you from a distance and it becomes real in the moment, which is great. What is the like big horrible? My instinct is always going to be the same, which is like 10 marionettes jammed together into a big terrible marionette Hulk. But that's also my favorite kind of monster, is what have we done? It's like my favorite, so I need to back off the gas on that every once in a while.
All right. So this is one of the ones that's not string puppeted. It's what are they called? The Chuck E. Cheese, Freddy,
Animatronic?
Fredbex. Yeah, it's an animatronic, or it's that, or it's all what they did with old set work stuff for movies, and it's like it's hardwired into the ground. And like puppeteered from the bottom.
Oh, like a Muppet.
It's the Mark II.
Yeah, exactly. Those, they're sturdier.
Now, the only issue would be if it is like locked into place, maneuvering around it gets too easy. To Ethan's, I was gonna say the ability of the amalgam marionette would be too many strings. If you try to get past it, your character gets looped up in it. Essentially, Sentinel is what it does. You get caught in the strings and you can't get past it.
I have a way. I think Sentinel is great, and I'm gonna write it down. I have a way to get out of my addiction to having a giant, horrible amalgam creature. This is like meant to be like a Punch and Judy puppet show. It's like a giant ogre or a dragon puppet.
Oh, yeah.
So it has 10 times as many strings, not because it's a horrible amalgam, but because it's like a Hydra with 8 heads, and each of the heads has its own string that makes it really hard to get by.
Yeah, it's cool.
Nice.
If we wanted to take a swift turn into horror, by the way, one of the marionettes would be controlled by a spider. Then after you killed 2 of them would like crawl down from the top. That would be awful. I think that's too bad.
For this one, yes. For later, we'll use that.
We've already banked into horror in this funhouse of bard shit.
What? No. Monster puppet, Sentinel, too many strings. Okay. And with that, we have come up with a key outline for what our monsters do. And again, I'm just going to give one last little piece of DMing advice that I use more and more the longer that I DM. All I have written on this note card is Blink Marionette, Distance Damage plus Move Marionette, and Sentinel Marionette. That's enough for me to go find a Flesh Golem and to give it Sentinel, to go find a Stormcall Wizard or a Cultist and, give it this distance damage ability, and to grab the Rogue and give him Blink, and I can make this a combat encounter tomorrow. I just add these abilities to monsters that already exist and try to do a little bit of CR math, maybe bring the HP up or the to hit up, but that's all you need is like a little extra boost most of the time to make a combat feel really interesting. And most players will assume you came up with a whole monster off the top of your head, and all you really need to do is like change up a couple of things, bring the AC up, the HP down, and have a little fun. All right, with that, it is exactly 9 o'clock, so alas, no time for bits. This is where we are going to sign off. Did anybody have any closing notes about the Bard's castle here? Or are we good to go? I just wanted to check in case anybody was like, I had an idea while you were talking.
If I was the bard of the party and I rolled out equipped with these like 4 crazy magic items, just dripped out, I would feel so sick. Yeah. I'm just saying that the fantasy there is there.
And what I like is each of those items would also work on another class, so that you can do a little bit of like the fighter takes the boots, the bard takes the loot. You can kind of still spread it out a little bit, especially if the loot is also a +1 focus, but only for bards. There's another pro tip for you. If you want a magic item to be really easy to decide who it goes to, just tie it to the class of the person that you want to take it, and you'll have a great time. Thank you all so much for watching. You can catch 3 streams here at Foolhardy Press. They all start at 7:30. On Sundays, you can catch Game Masters, Masters of Games, where we play games that we feel we have already mastered or we are still trying to master. Right now, I don't know what we're playing. I think we're going back to Baldur's Gate, right? I don't know. We've had a couple of busy weeks in a row, so we've missed a few, but we are going to be back on the horse here pretty well. On Mondays, you can catch The Party Makes Things Worse. That is our actual play show. Right now, I'm running a campaign called Song of the Reliquary in the game system Dungeons & Dragons in our setting of Prospect, which we came up with many years ago on the start of this very show that you are watching right now. So far, it has been a very fun... I thought it was going to be very creepy. It is mostly an action-adventure series because the party is, and I'm not kidding, simply too good. They are just annihilating my terrifying monsters far quicker than they can have anything really sort of intimidating happen. And then, of course, on Tuesdays, you can catch DM Writer's Room, where we demystify the DMing process by coming up with monsters, magic items, and marionettes live. Check us out on itch.io, where you can check out our first one-page RPG, The Last Thanksgiving, a turkey-tinged tale of vengeance, and soon our second one-page RPG, Resonance, which we've been working on in the background, which is pretty fun, a mech RPG for 3 to 5 players trying to learn to work together. Also on DriveThruRPG, you can check out our first adventure for Dungeons & Dragons, a quick level 1 adventure called The Lich's Dollhouse, a brief dungeon with some fun twists and turns to get people introduced to the game. Check us out on YouTube and TikTok, where Spencer makes all kinds of great stuff. YouTube specifically, he has been hammering away at pretty hard lately with shorts and whatnot. Go give those a watch, give those a like. Also, like, subscribe, drop a comment. Feel free to join into the chats. We love to hear from you. Thank you all so much for watching. Peace out.